All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet. Welcome to the Inner Circle Live Pre-New York session. I'm your host for this morning session, Benny Allen, and I'm definitely happy and grateful for each and every one of you being here with me this morning as we take a look at the technicals and the fundamentals to see what we can take advantage of in this Forex market. So, without further ado, let's make sure that we turn off any and all distractions. Grab a pen and paper, take lots of notes, and let's make sure that we participate and engage. If everybody can hear me loud and clear, do me a huge favor. Let me know that you're with me this morning. Drop me a 1 in the chat, and we could go ahead and get this session started. All right. So, as always, in the Forex trade room, we start out each and every morning taking massive action, meaning that we are accepting all possible losses before entering a trade, preparing us for any outcome. We will make sure that we send ourselves in body, mind, and spirit, ensuring a balanced approach to trading, and that we trust in our education, strategy, trading skills, and intuition. We want to always imagine our trade successfully materializing. We want to be sure to obey our trading strategy, avoiding decisions based on greed or fear. And we want to make sure that we are never looking back or stopping once our trade has commenced. So let's try to figure out what's going on in this messy market right now. So we'll go over, take a look first at the US dollar on trading economics. So we can see that the dollar, well, this is early today, dollar slipped around 99.6 on Thursday, easing after 2 consecutive sessions of gains as investors took stock of President Donald Trump's shifting stance on Chinese tariffs. The Trump administration is reportedly considering lowering tariffs on Chinese imports, pending talks with Beijing, while China signaled openness to trade talks on the condition that Washington refrains from further threats. However, optimism was tempered by comments from the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who clarified that Trump has not proposed any unilateral tariff cuts and that formal negotiations have yet to begin. Separately, President Trump stated earlier this week that he has no intention of dismissing Fed Chair Jerome Powell, because he can't legally, alleviating fears of political interference in U.S. monetary policy. The dollar weakened broadly, posting its sharpest declines against the euro, British pound, and the Japanese yen. So what a mess we have on our hands, right? What a mess. The back and forth, because we saw the stock market rally as because of Trump's rhetoric on considering lowering tariffs. But if you come over to Bloomberg, China says the U.S. should revoke all unilateral tariffs, denies talks. So we'll continue to see volatility and spikes, sharp spikes in the market because of this mess, right? CNBC, stock futures slip after major averages post back-to-back gains, right? Start to slip again early morning. China says no ongoing trade talks with the U.S. calls for canceling unilateral tariffs. Ridiculous, right? Front page of trading economics. German business morale edges up, but expectations decline, right? So Germany's IFO business climate index rose slightly to 86.9 in April from 86.7 in March, marking the highest level since July 2024 and beating market expectations at 85.2. The firms expressed greater optimism about certain conditions. The expectations gauge slipped, reflecting growing uncertainty among businesses. Yeah, of course we got some uncertainty, right? Considering all that's going on, EU car registrations down 0.2% slightly, right? So that's regarding car sales and things like that. EU natural gas price pulls back 7-month low. US factor, UK factory orders remain in contraction, right? So they're not where they need to be Taking a look at gold, rose around 33.20 per ounce on Thursday, following a 2-day decline, right? As lingering uncertainty over the U.S.-China trade war sustained demand for the safe haven asset. Secretary Scott Bessent said Wednesday that is potentially terrorism are reduced before trade talks can advance. Though he emphasized that President Trump will not, we saw that. So, and the last one, Trump plans to exempt car makers from certain tariffs after weeks of intense lobbying by an industry executive, easing some concerns over trade tensions. Gold has now risen over 30% since the start of the year, with the gold to silver ratio reaching its highest level since 1994, excluding the pandemic. The surge has been fueled by waning fears that trade barriers and unpredictable economic policies could undermine confidence in U.S. exceptionalism, prompting investors to shift away from U.S. assets in favor of gold. Right? But we've been on top of this, right? So, kind of saw it coming. Kind of saw it coming. Forex factory, right? So we look at the flash manufacturing PMIs in the Eurozone. We got some manufacturing PMIs that came in above what the forecast was, but still below that 50 mark, right? So we know, above 50 when it comes to PMIs reflect expansion, right? So you can see here, German, we read about that, right? We missed right on the services PMI there. Manufacturing PMI came in above forecast at 48, but still, below that 50 mark. Services PMI here 49.7. That's just a slight miss there. What else? This was Wednesday. We had Waller Goolsby speaking. Not sure if we got any highlights from there. No, that's just welcoming remarks. No squat boxes or anything like that. Anything show up on X for them? Let me see. Waller, Goolsby, nothing related. So, nothing there. Oil inventories, right? That came in above forecast. So, that there. Let's see. Governor Bailey spoke on Wednesday. Let's see what he had to say here. We do have to take serious, let me see. Let me see. English Bailey says fragmenting the world economy will be bad for growth. Of course. We do have to take seriously the risk to growth. That's everybody's concern. I was very encouraged by the Bessent speech. He said he was encouraged by the Bessent speech. China has sustained weak household domestic demand, and that's not sustainable forever. Yeah, we know that's the case. So nothing really doing there. All right. Any questions, thoughts, comments on anything that's going on? Mentally, feel free to chime in. Anybody? Good morning, Deb.
Yesterday I was looking at this clip, and I don't know what it's from. I think it's from the G20 meeting, but I did post an article, and it was basically one of Japan's leaders, saying what everybody's saying, that they are not going to respond to bullies and terrorist threats. And I end up posting an article in there about who groomed Trump, and to get a better glimpse of his thinking processes and thought processes and stuff like that. Not to say that it's relevant, but just to ease the calm and not be as surprised, because some of the stuff that's going on is like with the trade war, it just doesn't make sense, as you stated, over several days. Because it's like, how are we going to be able to recover? This is not COVID to be able to, we're still trying to recover over COVID. And it's like,
Right.
How can we find our footings? How can we find our ground, getting to know the enemy, so that way we can have a better defense?
I get it. I get it. Roy Cohn had a huge influence on him. And but the tariff thing, right, Joy, he's been since what, the 80s for the longest. He's been talking to tariff situations. It feels like the United States have been, you know, getting ripped off. But the White House and being the leader of the free world and being the president of the United States is really no place for people to take out personal vendettas. You know what I mean? Like it's just ridiculous. When I heard him speaking, he keeps saying over and over, reiterating back to a time when the United States was so rich from tariffs and we didn't have an income tax. And it's like, man, that was a different place and a different time. That was a different America. It's a
That
different world, So it doesn't, it just, the math doesn't math up, you know, uh, regardless of how some people in the media try to sell it. We follow the money, and so when I have, you know, other world leaders, economists, major market players, investors, you know, say that it doesn't make sense, it's because it doesn't make sense. Like, it's that simple. No matter how they try to sell it, how they try to spin it, doesn't make sense. No matter how you try to frame it. And the market is telling us it doesn't make sense. So that's like, so I see some of the things and the debates going on online, and you know, people just blindly support this man, and it's just like, I'm just gonna point to your 401k and the market. Like, the argument's over. The market's over. We're seeing worse worse market perform, like the Dow since 1932. The worst 3 months out of any start to a presidency for the S&P, the 14% decline. Like, the numbers speak to itself. So let's put all the emotions aside and let's look at the data. And the data says that this is a bad move. Is bad fiscal policy. It's just bad fiscal policy. That's it. And so, as traders, we could trade what we see, right? We could trade what we see. But in this group, we can hold a broader perspective as well. Like, we know we're traders, we know we're investors, but we also know that the average everyday American is not a trader, right? Is not a trader. There are a lot of people out here who may be close to retirement that have to change their game plan now. There are a lot of people who have worked the majority of their working years and are ready to retire who can't now. And they will not recover the money that was lost in the market before their official time to retire, or what they plan, or with the time in which they plan to retire. So yeah, we're traders. We know, hey, go to cash, get out the market, reduce your positions, adjust your stop losses, move into more defensive assets like gold, things like that. But the majority of people aren't traders. I wish they were, right? Aren't investors, right? But so it's like, yeah, we know how to also live in reality, and it's just, it hasn't been good domestically. It hasn't been good globally. Hasn't been. These moves, these type of decisions lead to, not only people, hey, maybe having to change retirement plans, but it could lead to job losses and then a lack of job creation because businesses are uncertain, and they don't know what moves to make because you're dealing with somebody that can make drastic shifts and moves just at the drop of a hat on a dime. So that's the climate that we're living in, right? So we take a look at the DXY on the daily, right? We're at that 118, 127 zone. We got to lift. That's amazing to me still. I'll always think that's amazing. We hit an 80-20 zone right at the edge of that 118 zone, and you see we got it lift. We'll see if it sustains itself for a correction, right? We could drive it, right? Of course, we're retesting that move out the gate. Right, here we are on the 4 hour for the DXY, right? We look at where we're sitting, right? There we are on the 4. Now we're pulling back. So we'll continue to monitor and follow the talks, tariff talks, things like that, right? To see if to see what happens next. But you've got the market rallying on any piece of positive news that it can get. But you can see, right, where it hasn't been able to sustain itself because of all of the back and forth, right? The administration says one thing, you know, our media, I don't say about our media, right? They need to do their job. Like they sell you one thing and then you get this art. Hey, China says you should revoke all unilateral tariffs and denies the talks. So, we're caught in a mess. But there's the dollar index. We come over and we take a look at our indices, right? We did see a short rally, right? But technically, where does that leave us, right? Sideways, just like we talked about. We talked about this could happen, right? And what this back and forth could lead to, right? So the movement, right, that we see here on this daily chart tells me that it's a mess, right? Tells me that there's still a lot of uncertainty. So this is where we are, right? If we go down to the 4 hour, you just zoom it in, right? Head on what we know, right? Fundamentally, we say, hey, there seems to be a lot of back and forth. Well, technically, we see that there seems to be a lot of back and forth in the market, right? So you go down, do we have any moves, moves within the move, right? That could be occurring, right? There's an 80-20 there that play it out if you're trading those charts, right? So on those impulsive moves, you can find setups, right? So on your 15, that was the setup there, 80-20 that went way beyond, right? But you can see all the back and forth. So it went way beyond an 80-20 zone, but we didn't hit the stop, right? So we played an 80-20 here on the S&P, right? With the stop loss at your extension level, keep that stop loss wide, you know, yeah, a crazy, a crazy ride trading off that 80-20 zone, but ultimately, right, that trade went into your favor, coming to that 382 target. Right? So all we say is we trade the zones. The price action takes care of itself. We don't care how it gets to the target. We just need to get to the target. So that was an 80-20 there on the 15 on the S&P. I don't know if any of our day traders spotted that, but that was one off that leg, you know. Uh so you wish you got into trading earlier? You know, me too. I uh not even necessarily trading, but for me, not but investing, right? Investing earlier, because uh we all know there's a serious time component when it comes to investing, and you can't get time back, you know. But you just move forward. You know, if you adjust a few things now, you still can, from an investing perspective, you still can end up in a really good position utilizing, what we know, in this group. You can really do some things, but that that young, you know, uh 18-year-old me, 21-year-old me graduating, you know, out of college with my bachelor's degree and moving into my first job, you know, that's that's where I wish I had that knowledge. And that's why, even outside of this group, you know, working with a lot of young people, in the high schools and stuff now, really expressing them to them, you know, several reasons why you want to go to college and what this could lead to. You're developing, getting your degree and developing another revenue stream for yourself, a major revenue stream for yourself, and investing right away, that Roth IRA right away. So you can set yourself up, as you get close to retirement to be a millionaire, just for making simple investments, right? And letting it take time, you know, speaking to a class of high school students, juniors that are going to be seniors next year and telling them like, yes, Jordans are great, but let's do the calculation on how many shares of stock in Nike you could have bought for that same pair of Jordans. So I'm not telling you not to buy the Jordans, but I'm telling you to do this as well, right? To do this as well, and inspiring them to have a love and a passion for math because of what it could lead to. Because I never had anybody say, you want to learn this math because this is what it can help you figure out, in the investing space, in the finance space. And this is how, you can learn how to make money from money, right? And so I like I always say, I feel like it's the final frontier for a lot of people, a lot of average everyday people, right? If we can figure that out, then, we budget better, we plan better. We might only there's a lot of people who make $100,000 a year, but still have too much month at the end of the month, right? But there's also people out there who make $35,000 a year who know how to invest a percentage of their money, right? So they can actually end up in better shape than that person that's making $100,000 a year because they know what to do with their money, right? And that, to me, that's the key to it all, right? That's why I show up every day, right? To the game because it's bigger than me, right? This is legacy changing, right? The skill set changes generations, right? So all because we understand what's going on technically and fundamentally and how important investing, and and understanding finance, right? That's important, especially in a capitalistic society, because that's not going to change, right? So this is where we are on the S&P. Here we are on the US 30, the 4 hour play, the same, right? And like we said, can we do we know in this group how to drill down and find those smaller setups? Absolutely, right? The trade within the trade, the trading what you see right now, yes. We understand swing lows and swing highs. We could go down and we can identify setups, right? Trade corrections, trade, rallies, right? There was your 80-20 there, right? 30-minute Reese's chart, right? 80-20 there. You see it playing out all over the place. Oh, a rally, right? Where so like we saw we saw the market rally, yesterday, what was it? What was it? Was the Dow, was it 900 something points? Something like that. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, right? I was super busy yesterday in and out of different events, but I was like checking my phone, looking at quick, headlines. But it rallied a bit, meaning, hey, we've been moving to the downside, and we saw the market rally, right? So we saw it, lose however many points. And then yesterday we saw a big rally in the market. That's what we mean, meaning that it went in the opposite direction, it moved to the upside, put in some pretty good numbers, but we can see that the rally has kind of been subdued, right? After back-to-back gains. So yeah, back-to-back days we saw the market rally right there, and now it's kind of slipping right now. And we'll see what happens when the market opens. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So again, S&P US 30, similar setups here. So if you like trading those corrections, you like that sweet spot that we have, right? That's a moneymaker for a day trader on this 30-minute chart. It's a good move, right? To the downside. And that might be your thing. You might not trade C to Ds. That's not my thing. I only like to trade corrections, right? That's all part of your discovery process. So that's another 30-minute move there. But the daily, we can see where we are, right? So same thing, UK 100. Did I miss NASDAQ? Sorry. Okay. Daily chart, same type of price action, right? We see it. We see that almost identical footprint being left across your indices. Okay. It's the Nikkei. Okay. Didn't close out. We just missed that the extension. We had a rally back to the upside. Right? So 4 hour, right? We had another 80-20. AB boundary broke before making that pull back to the 382. Then it recovered. Okay. But for the most part, we are still tracking. We're still, right? When you look at the big picture on this 4 hour, we're making lower lows and lower highs, right? So we'll continue to watch to see where this lower high officially forms. We'll continue to watch the fundamentals and the data, right? To see if that's eventually going to want to turn back over and continue to trend to the downside. But through all the chaos, through all the turmoil, the counter trend move, right? Our 80-20 move is still showing up in a lot of places. Okay. So I hope you all are able to identify those. And if you're trading, actively in this market, daily trading, that you're taking some of those positions. UK 100, right? Similar. Okay. So we can see here on the daily chart with the UK 100, right? It collapsed, took out the A. Like these moves, these percentage moves, and you can see we pushed up around that 80-20 zone, and we pretty much double topped, right? We actually tapped into that 127 zone right there, and we collapsed, right? And so when you see these type of moves across the board, like those are pretty impactful moves, right? To people's lives financially, you know. So this is where we are. So we've rallied, but we're still within our AB boundary, and unless if we see some well-defined positive news, a major shift in tariff talks, you know, then I'll be sold into a longer term rally and we're back to the upside, you know, for the rest of 2025. But right now the fact still remains that they don't have a deal on the table. Right? They just don't. So you're too biggest, largest major players don't have a deal on the table for these tariffs, right? So that's where we are. We can zoom down, right? Go to our 30, look at this, right? So there, that's a rally, right? That's a rally, right? This reversal and this move back to the upside is a rally, right? The question is always doing these time, like, man, is that going to sustain itself, or are we just setting up the turnover? Is this just the correction to move back to the downside, right? So that's an ABCD move right there, right? And we're trying to move into that extension, and we may get it. We may get it. So again, we always go back and say, hey, it just depends on the chart that you're trading on, right? Depends on the chart that you're trading on and what your game plan is. That's what's going to determine your setup. So that's a clean ABCD wave right there on this 30-minute, right? On this 30-minute. That's tradable, right? That rally is tradable. Okay. So, I don't expect everybody to sit on the sidelines like me. People have, you're welcome. People have different trading style, right? People like to be way more active in the market. There's moves, right? You trade that for sure. You trade that. We just always say in this group, be consistent, right? If those are the type of moves that you look for, be consistent, right? Because you need consistent data ultimately, right? You need that consistent data to figure out if your trade strategy and your trade plan is working, if it's profitable, right? You can't do that bouncing all over the place. Okay. So here we are, German 30, right? Rally. Rally's being put in. That's on the 4. Do we stay within the AB boundary? Or is this a sustainable move, right? Look at what happened across the board here, right? Now, as a trader, I didn't short. You all know that. I didn't short. But, right? Did these indices hit our sweet spots and zones for that counter trend move? Did it signal to us that the market was due for a correction? Yeah. Yeah. All right. There we are on the GR30. That's the daily chart. And then we got the Russell moving back. Now this is just a crazy wicked move on the Russell, right? Off that low. I just when it was time for the market to collapse, it collapsed. Okay. Took it out. Okay. See what happens. We know technically, we're moving into positions to where we are moving into sweet spots for high prices to get short. But we we trade, looking at both technicals and fundamentals. So we want to continue to watch the fundamentals. And if there's no moves or anything that's occurring, or if the talks continue to sour, right, then we continue to sell rallies. Looking at the big picture, right? Looking at the daily, looking at your 4-hour chart, you know. And so this is where we say, hey, um, we sell the rallies. Drop some sevens in the chat for Reach. You caught the 80-20 buy off the low, made a quick 800 in the futures and closed out before 7 a.m. Love it here. Congratulations. Congratulations. You're on your 30-minute? You played that on your 30? On the 15, on that 15. Yeah, you look. You said close out before 7 on that S&P. That's amazing. That's amazing. Trading the futures, right? Back down to that 15-minute chart. You know, off that top swing, something like that, somewhere around there. Yeah. At that bottom at that bottom candle. Back to the upside. Dang. That's off right there. That fib is off. Yes, Dad.
Good morning, everyone. Looking at this
All right.
chart, doing the trade setup would be stop loss at the lowest red, correct?
Yeah, let me find where'd you lay that fib at on that, Reese? Trying to make sure you got the fib accurate on that. Okay. Because mine's is printed wrong. So hang on, Dad, because mine printed wrong. So see, caught the buy 54.68. A lot of your charts updated yesterday, so maybe I need to oh yeah, they did. They did. I seen that when I just opened up. So maybe I need to reset some stuff. So 54.68. Let me put a target on that real quick. Hold on 1 second there. 54.68. 68. So do I have the right what's that? Why is that is not there oh yeah. Okay. I see. There it is. Yep. I see where you caught that move to the upside. Okay. So
Yeah,
on this swing that depending on how you plan it,
that's right.
you stop
Stop loss at the red.
yeah, you stop loss at the 161.8 here, right? And then you let that swing. Like he got out. He got out of his move. But that's technically with your 80/20, your stop
Yeah,
loss is there, right? It's ultimately there. But he played it off that level and took the move up. Caught that last move up. Yep, off the swing.
right.
And then he got out, right? He traded his futures. He got out before 7 o'clock. So just those little moves, right? So we got traders in the group that, Joy, Donette, Reese, a lot of people, right? A lot of people like they trade on these lower time frames, but the framework is still the same. You get what I'm saying? It's still the same. So the beautiful thing about the markets and playing the markets is that we know how to make money on the way up and the way down, right? So this was the 80/20 to the downside. You see that? Where if we pull this off, I can click on it. This was in and out. That's a beautiful play, Reese. That's a beautiful play. It wasn't playing any games. So if we if we play it, right? This bearish 80/20 to the downside, this was your move and your stop was here, right? Like that. You see that one? Right? There, because we didn't get a 382 here. It pushed up. We would have taken our trade here. Yes, we suffered some drawdown. We didn't get stopped out, but then we came down and hit target. And now, right, we hit that target, and Reese was like, hey, I'm running these fibs, right, in the other direction. And now this is your bullish 80-20, right? He said off the quick buy, right? So let me not change that. Let me just do this. All right. So does it still have the potential to move to a 382? Yes. Did he get out ahead of time, knowing the market, knowing it was coming top of the hour? He's in his future. Yes. He got out, but he made his money, right? So that could still carry to that 382. He's just like, I'm out of there and take my profit, right? But he recognized the zone. That's the key, right? He recognized the zone. He recognized the zone, even though it was a hot mess. But he recognized the zone and played it and got the reaction. Right. So that's that. That's what we call that sub fib, right? So this is your capital fib because this is still active. And then this is your sub fib or your secondary fib, right? That you're running off of the correction. Okay. All right. So uh anyway. But man, I just got rid of all my levels. I'm probably gonna have to go back and put them back in. But Dev has been putting in the work and learning. Great questions there, you know. And in this group, we know that when you're putting in that type of work, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know, so it's just a matter of time where it's like when it clicks, and you start seeing it all over the place, right? And that's the point you want to get to. So that's where we are on the indices. Any questions on the indices? I need to remark that S&P up anyway. Good there. Take a look at our commodities. Look at these commodities, right? What do we have? What were we looking at on gold? We were seeing if we were going back and forth, right? Are we gonna see another correction before we hit the level or not? Like we got it. Well, we did. We just don't have that pullback yet, right? And so we were seeing if we can get it to make another bull run, right? But look at what happened. Man, 80-20 zone. 80-20 zone. My goodness. So I wonder, look at that reaction, everybody, at this zone, right? We know we are hitting a higher time frame extension, right? Higher time frame extension. That's why that line is in there, 3380 or whatever. But we were looking to see if it was going to correct off that B boundary because we were looking, hey, we're long on gold. Investors piling into gold as the safe haven. But even knowing, right, that everybody's piling into gold, look at what happened to everybody when we hit that 80-20 zone. Fourth. It's amazing stuff. So we didn't get at least on this 4-hour chart, we didn't get that immediate correction out the B boundary that we wanted to see to get long. But it did break that B boundary and hit that 80-20 zone and collapse. That's money to be made right there. It hadn't even hit the 382 target. Right? That's a significant move out of that zone. I'm telling you, that is if there's ever a golden zone, that is it. We have redefined it in this group what the golden zone is, right? That is that's some amazing stuff there. That's some amazing stuff. So yeah, there it is. We'll continue to see. We see futures cooling off, back and forth. China came back and talked. So we'll see if it continues to cool off or we get some more positive news and the markets continue to rally. If they do, right? So when you get that positive news, you may continue to see some profit taken, right, out of gold, right, short term at least, and you see that dollar rally because this is not like a gold ETF or anything. This is gold versus the US dollar, right? So depending on the news, depending on the hour, we could see that continue to correct But again, unless there's a major fundamental shift in what's going on, I still, no matter if it corrects deeper or not, it's still just a correction to me, right? Still a correction, and we still look to get long on gold till something major changes. So that's where we are. Oil, right? Back and forth. This is the daily chart. Joy, what do we have? What do we have on oil?
So Putin snitching on Zelensky. Zelensky is not cooperating. And then you still have the issues with Iran. Yesterday I ran into a little my Ash Chat GPT nights and basically ran a scenario into that. So it's basically, technically the market is bearish. But we know, the catalyst is said to be from China. Whether or not if they're going to be how they're going to intervene with the market or what's or not, that would be is the prime catalyst that people are waiting on. But generally, they still waiting on the OPEC meeting. So it's kind of stagnant. And then with Zelensky not cooperating with Russia, I think that also put some drama in it.
Got it. So still having in regards to China, right? You're right, the Russia uh scenario, right? It's still weighing on everything, right? Because that's still a war, right? And then China, especially when you hear Trump talking about it, completely remove himself from it. And then China, right, in regards to what's the demand gonna be? What's the demand gonna be coming out of the world's second largest economy? So I appreciate it. Then OPEC, right? That's always key. And I really appreciate you continuing to post stuff in the community on that for people to check out and with your chat GPT and all that good stuff, man. Which
It was
that
one
makes
more
me
thing,
makes
and
me
I was,
proud.
yeah, because just my brain's starting to get tired, and I'm trying to find easy ways because Smart Trader made me lazy, so I'm trying to find little shortcuts around about. It was one more
Yeah.
thing that I'm forgetting. Oh, the oversupply. It's supposed to be an oversupply concern. Um, but
It's a demand, right? Lack of demand.
it's a lack of demand, but I want to say it's still Iran. It's something, it's somebody I read. I fell asleep on an article about producing. I read it was an article I was reading. They was talking about doing high production starting in June. Or was it May? Something like that. And I lost the article. So
Got it.
yep.
Got it. Got it. Got it. All right. I appreciate it. So that's it, right? We're still rolling to the downside, right? So I don't know. Did it not because this is that larger daily. Oh, that should have. Why didn't this fib deactivate? That's a that's an A6 pullback. I'll reset my charts later, like you said, Jerry. That clearly spiked down through that 118 level. That's a clear move down. That's weird. But on that sub, that's a huge move. On that sub fib, though, we're pulling back a bit. So we'll see what happens there. Silver, we were looking for that correction, but hey, we didn't get it for the buy, but we know what the next move could possibly be, right? We're hitting that 80-20, you're headed towards that 80-20 zone and that weekly level at 34.37, right? So it's amazing how the market moves. You guys remember back, what was it? Was that earlier this year? Right? We tracked it to $34, right? That was the ABCD move. And then it completely went haywire on us with the correction. But that move, our first move long was the 3,400. And so you can see that we're starting to move back to that level. And this is the 1 hour chart on silver. that we're tracking. Here's the daily, right? 382 pullback, rangy, right? Rangy, but we were focused in on this impulse move. And you can see here, even on the daily, that 34-37 level, that's 80-20-ish, right? Even on the daily, on the sub-fib here, right? So we'll see if we get another reaction. If we get to that level, we see where our stochastic is here on the daily chart. Let me go down to the 4, right? So similar move. That move down to the downside was quite wicked, right? So we're trying to track it back up to the highs there. So that's where we are on silver. Not necessarily a setup there quite yet. We didn't get that pull back off the B boundary to get long. It got long on us out there, shallow correction, just a range really. And we broke out, right? So you had a range breakout there, right? So if we look at it, right, we look at just you take your fib off and you look at your classic technicals, right? You had a range, okay, and you got price breaking out from that range, right? Slight pullback to try to retest, but that's a classic range breakout. And you can say, you know what, I'm taking it to the next high. You've actually got some 4-hour highs here, but that's a weekly high. That's a significant high there. So you get a range breakout, you try to see if you can get a retest of the breakout zone. And we trade to that next level. Right. So that's just old sticks and stones right there. That's old school, technical analysis there. Right. When you identify that. So let's see if we're able to push right back to 34. Right. Back to 34. Then maybe we get to that 34-37 weekly level. So that's where we are on silver, nat gas. Did we complete? Not quite, but we are almost there, right? ABCD, we had a weekly level, that 80-20 zone. Just bearish though, right? Just bearish though. So we're not quite to that 161.8 area yet. But that last line of defense is that daily level. But we know natural gas is down. That gas is down. Right? We've been talking about that for a long time. Additional confirmation. I don't know if we get that break back to the 382 before we move, to the extension and that fib deactivates. But like I said, we're at a daily level at that 297. So if it holds up and we start making higher highs and higher lows, you never know. But I'm leaning more towards that extension being hit. So natural gas to the downside. That's your 1-hour chart there. That's that recent move. We'll see. I mean, we were looking to continue short. We didn't even get a high price to get short. It's just been moving and collapsing. So that's where we are on nat gas. Our copper play. Right? Long, right? 80-20, right? Off the zone. Doesn't matter the asset. We can trade it all. Right? Two TPs looking to take out that A, which is our TP3. Moving. Moving. That's a beautiful move. That's a beautiful move. There. Questions? Any questions on anything that we covered today?
No, but I was looking at a couple of financial sectors on Darwin.
Yeah.
And I was gonna start digging in because I ended up putting up all states chart. So I started looking like insurance and broker, those type of brokerage.
Yep.
And I want to say I could have sworn it's the chart, the tag is ALLY on this particular one. Wait a minute.
Oh, Ally, right?
Ally, one of them is Allstate. I was looking at all of them, but I wanted to dig in a little bit more, and I'm gonna try to do some research. No, I am going to do some research over the weekend as far as a couple of the insurance sectors because I think because I understand that sector a little bit.
Yeah.
And but they're making some moves. I was looking at a couple of these charts, but our precious little smart trader is going to make me go to TradingView and use my brain.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I know they gotta finish reloading all this stuff. Like I said, they brought back in the major like your spider ETFs and all of that, but they're still missing. They got a lot of the stock. They got a lot of the stocks in there though.
Okay.
They got a lot of the stocks in there. Like they've always had a lot of stocks in there. You know, you had to type it in and see it. Like I say, they've got the spider ETFs in there. They don't have all of the others that they used to have. So I don't know. They must have had some contractual issues and things like that. But it looks like they're slowly figuring things out. But yeah, type it in, see if you see them. But this copper, because of the tariff situation, right, and the prices, everybody, this copper is probably going. You got supply. What was it with copper? You got some mining challenges, different parts of the world with copper, right? So that's a supply constraint. If you got high demand, that's going to continue to push it up. Everybody is big, on, well, we're kind of moving backwards, at least in a with like when you look at like green technologies and things like that. Biden administration had passed like the infrastructure bills. You need copper for all that stuff, everybody. You know, so it is may continue to trend to the upside. It's hard to do a lot of things when it comes to infrastructure and building without copper. So some things to think about there. And so we'll wrap things up. We'll be back. We'll get into more of the currencies and things. Taking a look at things tomorrow to see if there's any plays. Oh, you're welcome to that. Yeah, definitely mark up your copper moves. We may continue to see that makes some gains just based on some things fundamentally that I know. So, but that 80/20 technical play, right, is made out to be good. So, all right, hey, appreciate all of you. Appreciate all of you, and they do have it in the futures. So we know that's your thing. You and Reese, some other folks in the group trading, man. That makes me super happy, man, to see that. So everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. See you back here tomorrow, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the pre-New York session. Have a good day.